Welcome to the Speak for Yourself podcast. My name is Casey. We have a new intro video, a new mic, and a new guest. We're coming in hot tonight. Let me get her in. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hey,
How are you tonight?
good. Very cool intro.
Thank you. So I got to shout out my brother. That is brand new. He is kind of a video editing whiz kid. I guess he's not
Nice.
a kid now. He's a full-grown adult, but the whiz kid. So, Elizabeth, why don't you tell the audience, whoever listens to this, a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, I do libertarian content mostly on TikTok, comedy content as well, and then, some like spicy Instagram content. And I've been doing that for, I don't know, a couple years now, I guess, and just like getting more and more into the libertarian sphere. So, yeah, I think that's kind of why I'm here.
So you started your podcast about a month or two before I did mine. So how's that been going for you?
It's been good. It's long form content's like totally different. I'm used to making like 7-second long TikTok one-liners basically. So it's been like a learning curve and I'm just trying to get used to it. But it's fun.
Yeah, I have to be honest, I have never been more self-conscious about how I speak, the background behind me, the stuff that I talk about. It's like this hyper awareness of everything that's going on, which is really strange because I used to do the musician thing, where I did singer-songwriter for a while. I was in a pop punk band, so I'm used to, like, being on stage and in front of people, but talking in this long form format is completely different.
Yeah, I think you just have to like kind of have fun with it. Like, I don't know, I just had a giant booger before I came on here and I was like, hopefully I got the whole thing. If not, there's gonna be like a booger hanging out the whole time. I don't know. You just gotta have a good time with it.
Yeah. So, can you tell me a little bit about your journey to libertarianism and how you discovered that? And
Sure. So what's funny about that is a lot of people have this like cool breakthrough story about how like they came to libertarianism, like they, saw Ron Paul and had this like heaven moment or whatever. But mine isn't like as climactic. I just have always been libertarian, like leaning or libertarian in nature, I guess. I just didn't know what it was until I was like 18, 19. So basically, like the school I went to when I was growing up, we didn't have, it was really small, so we didn't have like current events or anything like that. And the only like politics that would come up is just like the teachers talking about it. And the big thing at the time was gay marriage. So it was basically just like explained to us like, oh, if you're pro gay marriage, you're a Democrat, and if you're anti gay marriage, you're a Republican. And so I was like, well, it's no skin off my ass, so I guess I'm a Democrat. And, I can swear on here, right?
yes,
I didn't
go
ask you
for it.
that, sorry, okay. So I was like, "I guess I'm a Democrat," but then I was, like, 18 or 19, and I took a Facebook quiz. There's, like, this Facebook quiz that was, like, "What, political affiliation are you?" or whatever, and I took it, and I remember, like, a picture of a porcupine popped up, and it was like, "You're a libertarian," and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And then, I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh, holy shit, there is, like, a specific thing for, like, everything that I believe." So, that's kinda how I came to it. I didn't really have a big moment, I just, like, always was libertarian and then found out that there was a name for it.
Gotcha. I kind of had the same experience, always being libertarian minded. Uh, I think in 2016, I felt a little disenfranchised by our presidential options, with uh, Trump and Clinton, and I didn't. Neither one of those candidates resonated with me, so I started looking at third-party candidates, and I believe it was Gary Johnson that ran that year, and I ended up abstaining from voting that year, which was new to me because I grew up like Christian conservative, and I still hold some of those values, but um, libertarianism made a lot more sense to me the more that I looked into it. And then again in 2020, we had Trump and Biden. And again, I felt, disenfranchised by those options. And so Jo Jorgensen was the candidate that year. And I did vote for her. Um, not the best candidate in my opinion for
Eh,
libertarianism, but it was better than the other 2 options.
I, for one, thought Trump was fucking hilarious, but that's just me. I
Oh, yeah?
loved it. Yeah, I thought it was great, but, I'm a little, like, probably sadistic in that way. I was like, "Yeah, throw a wrench in there, clank it
Yeah.
around, see what happens."
So are you more into, like, the theory of it all, of libertarianism, like, studying all that kinda stuff, or what's
No, so
your,
I'm not like the kinda quintessential, libertarian nerd, like the autistic libertarian. I maybe am an autistic libertarian, but, like, I'm not, like, hyper smart with it. So no, I'm not, like, super into, like, studying the philosophers and stuff like that. I actually look at it kind of like there is a little bit of a gap, and I think I kind of fit in here where there's not a ton of people who are, like, a good bridge from just super like, don't know anything about libertarianism, to, like, just getting in. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, libertarians as a group, we do kinda, like, hyper focus on that, like, end spectrum of being super into the philosophy, and when you listen to 2 libertarians talk sometimes, it's almost like, dude, a normal person wouldn't be able to even understand this conversation. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's like it's too deep in. So I like to focus on just like the really basic shit. Like why is personal sovereignty empathetic as opposed to liberalism or progressivism or whatever you want to call it, like the modern left. Like how is that actually not empathetic and how is personal sovereignty actually the way to go and the just thing to do and yada yada yada. So I focus on like the really basic shit.
Do you wanna go into that a little bit?
How personal sovereignty is more
Mhm.
empathetic than progressivism?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, this is probably the one that I get like the most passionate about because I grew up in the Rust Belt in Western New York and in just like a very like a heavy poverty stricken area. And so I got to see like how the government fucks over poor people like big time. And it drives me nuts when you have these like kind of I don't like, they're not all, like, rich or whatever, but, like, your suburban university type liberals who kind of come to this idea of like, "Oh, I wanna help poor people," and it's like, "Okay, that's great," and they're like, "We're gonna do it by top-down authoritarian government." And it's like, "Yeah, no, 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 that doesn't help. That is not helpful for poor people at all." Because what ends up happening is, like, regulation ends up keeping them from being able to start businesses, and things like that. The economic policies end up, causing inflation and shit that's another just extra taxes on poor people. If they get involved in the welfare state, now they are basically stuck in this trap, where if they try to, like, earn more money or climb up the ladder, they're going to hit a point where they make too much to qualify for benefits, and the government has strategically made that a huge gap, though, so it's something where you can try to get a better job, but there's no way you're gonna jump from, like, a $30,000 a year job to, like, what it would equate to in the benefits that you're getting for like subsidized housing, food stamps, like et cetera, all those things that you can qualify for as like a single, say like a single mother, you know what I mean? So it actually incentivizes them to not progress in their career and just kind of stay bottom of the barrel because it's the smarter economic decision, things like that. And then you can get into like obviously like the war on drugs and how that impacts poor people. Just basically fucking everything.
Yeah. It punishes, what's the word? I think you said this recently, productive people.
Yeah, for sure. So, like the welfare state does that, taxes do that. I think that might be what you're talking about, how I talked about basically taxes are just a fine for productivity, which is ridiculous. So you're incentivizing sitting on your ass and you're disincentivizing being productive. So that's just insane. It's an insane way to run a society.
Yeah. Hey, so, you recently had an interview with Kalina George. Do you have, any thoughts on that post-interview?
Yoga pants.
Yoga Pants.
Yeah, yoga pants is
Agent Yoga Pants.
agent the Fed. Yeah, so that interview, was basically, like the whole concept is, like, she was upset kind of at the Mises Caucus and even just like the Libertarian Party and libertarians in general with our tendency to be kind of like brash and not care what people think. Like we're not buttoned up as a group, you know, and we're like yelling at each other and calling each other names, and we have these like crazy dank memes and like all this shit. And her argument is like button it up, basically be more like the GOP. You know what I mean? In order to win. And I personally, I don't agree with that. I just think that there's a huge difference from when you come like people like you and me who have just always been libertarian minded. It comes from principles that are like they're just deep rooted principles. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you just can't change it. And so it's like, nah, I'm not gonna change who I am. I'm not gonna play the dirty politics game, like just to get other people to accept me and win, because I feel like you're just gonna become the thing that you're running away from. Like becoming the GOP doesn't help anybody. You know what I mean? Because I feel like she left the GOP to come over to libertarianism and it just wants to turn it back into the GOP. That's kind of the take I got. So
Yeah. I'm going to play that clip if you don't mind, from your interview with her. You said some stuff that I really like in that.
yeah, do it up. People who came from having to be outliers constantly, they've been happy with being outliers. So that's a certain personality type. You know what I mean? And so you're
Yeah.
kind of coming to heathens, asking them to do heathen things, you know, fuck up the government, basically, break the system, like allow us to have health freedom. Those are heathens. Like those people have been heathens their whole lives. They're a little wild, they're a little crazy, they're a little brash, and they talk a little different and stuff like that. But those are the people that you need to go to get help, because the people in suits and the people who talk well and the people who are good at being professional are the people that you're fighting against. Those are the assholes. People who came from having to be outliers constantly, they've been happy. I think I was wearing the same outfit that I'm wearing now.
What a coincidence.
I never change. This is it.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I really liked about that is you were speaking to the way that libertarians speak in some of the, like, for lack of a better term, edge lording that's going on, especially like on Twitter. You know, she believes that you shouldn't do that, or you should dial it down, tone it down, so that you're able to reach more people. And her whole thing was she wanted to bring more um, health freedom moms into the movement, and she didn't think that she could do that while there's so many, you know, like edge lording stuff going on. Um, and I think that she is kind of not giving those women credit. Like they're unable to handle that sort of deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. Especially because like so I'm one of those people that she's talking about. That's why I had her on and everything, because I get where she's coming from. Like I get what she's saying. My take is like you want to bring those people in and you think that they're more comfortable like resonating with you. Awesome. Like you put out your content, they're going to resonate with you. They'll come in. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Yeah.
like not everybody has to be like you. But the thing is like I'm one of the people that she's talking about. I'm one of the people that says retarded and makes the dumb jokes and like, you know, is into offensive comedy. It's also another aspect of what I do for work, but like I I don't feel like I'm like that hard to get along with type of thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm actually very
Yeah.
inviting when it comes to like joining the Libertarian Party. That's what I want to do is like spread personal sovereignty, freedom, liberty. Like that's all I want to do. And so I like if you're a granola mom and you want to come talk to me about libertarianism, fucking awesome. Like I'll be down to talk to you about it all day. If you get offended at my language, like there's really nothing I could do about that. But I think you're right. Like I don't think she's giving them enough credit. Like I think I can swear in a conversation like I do every day and nobody's gonna like cry and freak out about it.
Yeah, and there's definitely people that get offended by that kind of language or that kind of, you know, edge lording. Uh, but I think it's also one of the things that sets us apart. And I think through the mockery, we're able to get points across to people that those points may not have reached otherwise.
Oh, for sure. Like the satire and like pointing out the ridiculousness of the other two parties is like a huge thing. That's I think that's basically how I get through to people, you know.
Yeah.
But again, like if that's not your style, then that's not your style. Like that's okay. Just you wouldn't follow those creators anyway. So I don't really I kind of don't get the argument in that like aspect unless you're literally saying everybody who is out there talking about libertarianism or who identifies as a libertarian needs to act like all clean cut, but that's just insanity. I mean, all the Republicans don't act clean cut. You know what I mean? Like you have your highbrow Republicans and then your kind of trashy Republicans, and nobody has a fucking problem with that. So it's like you just gotta let people be who they are.
Yeah. And I think since libertarians, in my opinion, unless something crazy happens, aren't in a position to win like national elections, like the presidential election, um, our job is to wake people up to better policy and better ideas. And if that comes through mockery and memes and edgelording, then more power to us, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree, and I also think that, like, there's a spot for, you know, everyone, you know what I mean? Like, so a vast majority of us do that kind of stuff, and it has been working, and it's one of the reasons why, you know, like, she joined, the Libertarian Party, I think, like, 2 years ago or something like that, but it's one of the reasons why people even know anything about libertarianism, you know what I mean? Is the fact that people are out there and being loud and saying controversial things and stuff about it, otherwise they wouldn't even know anything about it. So I think there's a huge spot for that, but I think there's also it's like awesome, yeah, there's also a spot for you to talk to the granola moms. That's cool, like bring them in, you
Yeah.
know? So I think there's a spot for everybody.
So, how do you feel about her interactions with some of the people in the party? Do you think she came in too strong, or like was she doing that for like for clicks and to grow her own platform, or did she have like genuine grievances and that was her way of getting it out?
Man, we're really talking smack. So, well, like I told her this, yeah, when we had our conversation. I was like, man, you just like came in like lobbing grenades, man, and then you're like surprised that people are like, what the fuck, you know? So it does come across very weird. Like it's a weird strategy, but then again, at the same time, like it's a strategy that's working for her because I mean, we're sitting here talking about her. Everybody's talking about her, really. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? She really has, like, made a big name for herself, so it's working for sure. And she tweets like a fucking son of a bitch, man. I just got on Twitter. Like, I'm a boomer in that aspect. I have not been on Twitter, and I don't get on very often at all, but when I do, she's like a million fucking tweets, and I'm like, "Holy shit," like, how she's tweeting all day. It's impressive.
Yeah. Well, she came from my boy Clint, so I had to kind of talk about her a little bit.
Yeah,
Not
did she,
talking
like,
trash, but
come for him specifically? Or I saw, like, their little debate that they did where he basically was kinda saying the same thing, like, you know, he uh, the
yeah, and
Mises Caucus.
I think he was heated at that point, because he gave it right back. Um, but then she did the whole thing with, like, retweeting that clip with Eliza Blue sort of thing
Oh, I
where
didn't know that.
yeah, and it's just, it's disingenuine because that's not it was taken out of context, and that's not what, Clint was talking about at all.
So that's some drama that I don't really know anything about because again, I'm not on Twitter, so, like, well, I just got on, but I don't spend time on there, so I don't really know what happened
Yeah,
there.
so Clint had her on Eliza Blue, probably a year before all of this current drama happened, and, uh, I hope I'm getting this right from memory, but they were talking about in the, uh, like, ideal anarchy situation, how you would handle, dating, and basically, uh, Eliza and the other guest were talking about, you need like the community's permission to date, and they would judge, um, if the suitor was, good enough to date, their daughter, for example. Uh, and it was kind of like an underage issue in there as well.
Oh.
And all Clint was doing was listening to her talk, and he was like, he nodded his head, and he wasn't nodding in agreement. He was like listening to what she said. Well, that clip was clipped and taken out of context and then portrayed as if Clint was like a pedo or something. You know what I mean?
Oh shit. Yeah, I'd have to see that. That's wild. He didn't come back with like a throw him in the wood chipper or something. The
Well,
community
at
gets
that
together and throws them in a wood
he
chipper.
he definitely did
Oh,
throughout the
okay. Then he's
episode. That's
oh,
his position.
okay, cool. Yeah.
But in that video, it was clipped to where he's just nodding as if in
Oh,
agreement,
that
but he's not
like
nodding in
shitty
agreement.
editing. Yeah, that
Yeah,
sucks.
he's like, if I'm listening to you and I'm like, you know, doing this sort of thing, that's what it was.
Yeah,
But
that shouldn't be if
anyway,
that's the case.
that's dumb drama. Anyway, so you mentioned that you just got on Twitter. However, you are kind of a TikTok rock star. So how did you get into that and use it for both advancing libertarian ideas and also your comedy?
Mhm. Yeah, so TikTok, I actually got on like back when it first switched over from Musically, when it was just like nerds and like people like furries like dancing and stuff. I got on and I just started doing like political satire. I don't like I was just like whatever, and I was like the only person doing that on there. It was very rare to come across anybody who was even doing like original content. It was all voiceover stuff and songs at that point. Um, and so it kind of took off a little bit, and then I accidentally got that account deleted. But so then I took a break and I just came back. I don't know, like a year or two ago or something, and started doing it again. But I just found that it's a cool platform to make political satire on. It's just a
Sure.
fun, you know what I mean? It's just fun, short form, like shit that you can just dump on there.
Well, it's interesting because you are the first person that popped up when I typed in libertarian
Hell yeah.
in the search thing. I don't know if that's the same today, but this was maybe a year or two ago, something like that. Um, anyway, I this is the number one reason I wanted to talk to you is because TikTok is not being used up until recently by libertarians to get their messaging out. And I think that's a huge mistake because so many people, especially young people, are using TikTok. So it seems like a tool that you would want to use.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So, like, none of the libertarians know who I am really because they're all on Twitter and I don't have a presence there. And so, it does surprise me because, like, on TikTok, like, I have built a little bit of a, like a libertarian thing and it's pretty cool. But there's really not a whole lot of other libertarians to like bounce back and forth with or anything like that. Um, and I think that is a big thing that definitely like I wish more libertarians would get on and start making, more content. And there's also a huge like you can make really funny memes on there, and I just like obviously libertarians fucking kick ass at doing that and they're not doing it enough. So I definitely think more people should get on and start making libertarian content. There's a need for it, so definitely do it.
Yeah, there's a huge audience that you can reach, and it is a tool that needs to be taken advantage of, in my opinion.
For sure, and you come across, like, when you said, like, there's young people on there and stuff, there's also a ton of people, like, you're not necessarily so smushed in as you are on Twitter, where it's like you just get into, like, the political Twitter, and then you're just kinda, like, in this, like, little bubble. Um, if you hit something that goes, like, outside of your bubble, then you're getting all these people who they don't even know what a libertarian is, and so that's kind of cool, like, you can literally introduce them to libertarianism, as opposed to just kinda, like, the back and forth chaos of just libertarians fighting on Twitter amongst themselves.
Yeah, I got most of my I don't want to say following, but likes and man, I can't even say it
You almost
tonight.
got it. You almost
I
got it.
almost got it, man. That's a tongue twister. Anyway, from a video I did, uh, there's this like country song that was going viral, and it was like what different boomers say to me when I say that I'm a libertarian, and I was like, "Well, you're splitting up the Republican vote, or you just want to smoke the devil's lettuce." So funny. And I'm still getting like likes on that today, and that was over a year ago, I think.
Yeah, see stuff like that, like, that's what I love about making, like, the TikTok stuff, even though it's kinda lame or whatever, it's just fun. Like, I just like getting stuff out there that's fun, and it's not necessarily as, like, toxic, and I just don't get into, like, the infighting and just the tearing each other down. I'm kind of definitely more of, like, a rising tide lifts all ships person, you know what I mean? Like, everybody
Yeah.
comes up together, so I think that's cool.
Well, so I wanted to ask you a little bit about your um, position on the culture war and everything that's going on. Do you try to stay out of that, or just what's your opinion on that?
No, I that's where I get some of my best, like, content ideas is, like, poking that bear, and having fun with that, so, yeah, it would have to be, like, what specifically do you wanna talk about within the culture war?
Oh man, so much stuff. Um, where do you stand on uh, the trans agenda when it comes to kids?
Yeah, so obviously just I think that whole thing's fucked up. This is why I have such an issue with top-down authoritarianism is because, I don't know where this is from, but this is like I don't know who said this, Carlin, maybe, I don't know if I'm pulling names out of my asshole, but
George
basic
Carlin?
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe, but, anyways, it was like everybody you can sit next to somebody of a different religion or whatever at a concert and have a great time, and nothing you're never fighting with anybody until the government gets involved. And then once the government starts dictating anything, that's when you start fighting with each other. And I think that's a huge part of like this whole like any of the trans agenda, critical race theory, like all of this shit is coming down from a very like centralized spot. You know what I mean? Because if it wasn't, you would just have it in certain areas, but you don't. You have it fucking everywhere. And what it's because you're looking at like the public school system and things that are heavily centralized, and that's when you get these issues. And if it was everything was decentralized, I don't think you'd have these culture issues like this. Like normal fucking people don't want to sit there and preach to kids about transgenderism. Like that's just not what they want to do. It's all coming from this top down like pipeline. And that's the issue with everything. They also don't want to sit there and talk to kids about race and how you should feel guilty for being white and blah blah blah. Like that's all coming from this centralized place.
Yeah, and I think it's being taught to the teachers, and that decision to be taught is top down.
Yeah. No, totally. It's
Um,
in the universities and everything else. It all comes from like a centralized place. Like I said, or else you just have this issue like, oh, this is an issue we just have like out west or whatever, or like even smaller areas than that, or just like peppered around, but it's not. It's fucking everywhere. And also it's put on mainstream media and stuff like that heavily as well, which just keeps it like it perpetuates it. You know what I mean? So that's how you can tell it's like it's very organized.
do you get the sense that it's, degenerating society? Does that make
It
sense?
like
That all of this stuff.
that it's, like, degeneracy? Is that what you said?
No, it's like decaying society in a sense.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think it's definitely, like, definitely I mean, you can tell from what our society currently is. It's just a bunch of infighting. It's, you should hate each other based on literally every little box that you can check about yourself, and yeah, it's, like, just pitting neighbors against each other, and I think a big reason behind it is because if you're fighting with each other, then you don't, like, look around and go, "Hey, wait a second, what's the government doing? Hey, wait a second, what's the Fed doing?" Like, why do we have all this inflation? Like, why do houses cost what they do? Like, why doesn't our money have actual backing to it? Why do they keep just printing shit? Like, stuff like that, you know what I mean? So it's like it's a lot easier to just be, like, pissed off at, like, the trans agenda that they're shoving down everybody's throat, and I think that's why they do it.
Yeah. So you think it's more of a divide and conquer from the
For sure.
top?
For
Yeah.
sure.
And do you think the answer is addressing these things individually, or do you think that, decreasing the size of government, for example, is the answer to all of that?
Yeah, I think decentralization is the answer, honestly, because again, like I guess I'm kind of white pilled in the fact that like most people are just like normal fucking people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, think about all the people you know, and then how many of them are into this like crazy shit, like talking to kids about transgenderism. You know what I mean? It's not a lot. And if you just decentralized everything, I think that would get rid of a huge amount of the issues. Like, because you're working on a more of a community level, and all of a sudden, like, the normal people are in charge. The average people are in charge instead of like these higher ups that are just absolutely insane. I don't wanna say like lizard people, but they're just crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so, along those same lines, where do you stand on the idea of, like, peaceful divorce?
Oh, yeah, no, I think it's great.
Yeah, I
Big
do too.
big fan. Yeah, so I think even just the fact that we're talking about that on such, like, a mainstream level is amazing, and I think this is one of, like, the biggest opportunities for libertarianism in a long, 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 long time, or just, like,
Yeah,
personal sovereignty in general. I'm super stoked about it.
it is amazing how mainstream that went so quickly. I don't know how that happened, but,
There's power in the memes.
yeah. Well, so, another thing that's more, along the lines of current events that's happened is that you had the Department of Energy, and then after that, you had the FBI come out and say that the lab leak theory on COVID is, correct. Um, so I think that you're gonna have a lot of people look at that, and they will lose faith or what little faith they had left in all of these institutions, and that is the opportunity for libertarianism.
For sure. I think all of it combined is kind of the opportunity. Like like back to like the trans agenda and everything. Like people draw the line at their kids. You know what I mean? And as well they should.
Absolutely.
And you saw that even with COVID actually, which was great. Like I know a lot of people did get their kids vaccinated, but not anywhere near what the government was hoping for. And I think that's great. I think that's amazing. And I think it's fewer and fewer and fewer people believing in this shit, like the more and more it's pushed. I see a ton of women now that are coming out against being called like menstruators and chest feeders or whatever the heck, you know what I mean? Being like, no, not cool. I'm not comfortable with a transgender dude in my bathroom or my locker room or anything like that. Like I've been super supportive, blah, 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 but like I draw the line. And so there's a lot of people like
Yeah, that
there's
language is so demeaning towards
yeah,
women.
no, for sure. There's the hypocrisy too, like the
Yeah.
absolute hypocrisy of being like, "Oh, I could just like throw on lipstick and a skirt and I'm a woman now." And it's like, like, and then people are like pissed off about cultural appropriation with braids. And it's like, I can't, the hypocrisy is too much.
Yeah.
And it like cracks me up. But yeah, so
There's a
people
there's a logical disconnect there.
oh, so many, like, so many, but, people are finally getting to, like, their line in the sand on a lot of things, you know what I mean? And I think that's super awesome and super exciting.
Yeah, so back to COVID, honestly, I've said this once before, but it was the most black pilling and then white pilling thing that I think that I've ever seen, and we that might be the biggest thing that we see in our lifetime. Um, we had the lockdowns and you had the mandates and all of this stuff and all these reasons to be black pilled. But then you started seeing people wake up, and that was the white pill moment. Now, the Libertarian Party kind of botched that moment, but
100%.
yeah, uh, but nonetheless, it was a white pilling moment, and I've loved seeing people wake up and question, um, all of these authoritarian figures and the government and uh, just the way things are.
For sure. I think that's such a good way of putting it too, is like it was like a huge black pill and then a huge white pill. I haven't actually thought about it like that before, but you're so spot on. Like it was a pendulum swing like a motherfucker because like they came out. This is another thing that actually has made me really, really white pilled is I've always been like a conspiracy theorist. Like it's just I love it. It's fun. Like I've always been into like 9/11 and UFOs and Sasquatch and fucking why are all the presidents related, like all of it.
It's fun
And
to think about.
yeah, it's so fun. I'm super into, like, just theories in general. But, so the conspiracy community, though, used to be, like, very, very small. And then, COVID happened, and I was 100% black pilled for sure. Like you're saying, like, I was like, "They're putting masks on us. They wanna muzzle us. It's dehumanization, blah, blah, blah." I was like full Alex Jones. And then I saw those slowly. It was like the conspiracy community just started, like, blowing up. And the amount of people, because it went from, like, I was a weirdo, like, trying to talk to anybody about anything conspiracy related pre-COVID was, like, it would be very rare to come across somebody who would be down to talk about conspiracies with you. Now it's like you can be at a grocery store and somebody will just start, like, red pilling you. And you're like,
Yeah.
"This is amazing." Like, it's so that has white pilled me big time because, like, average people now are like, "I don't trust anything the government does. I don't trust big pharma. I don't trust blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "This is amazing. Yes, yes, yes."
Yep, it's 6 months from a conspiracy to the truth. Is kind of the saying now.
Totally.
What is your favorite, non-serious conspiracy?
Oh, it's so flat Earth. I could listen to
Oh,
flat Earth
no.
debate. Have you ever
For
listened to a
fun?
flat Oh, for sure for fun. Are
Okay.
you kidding me? Fucking so fun. Yeah, I could listen to flat Earth debates all day long. It's great. Like, when somebody's like, "It's a sphere," and somebody's like, "It's flat like a donut." Ah, I
Oh,
love it.
man.
Eat it up. That
I
and,
can
like, Sasquatch, whether or not it's, like, real or an interdimensional being or doesn't exist at all, that's also a fun one.
ooh,
Yeah,
I think it's a Nephilim.
yeah, oh, there's a fun one, yeah. When you start getting into, like, the new government ones, though, they're kinda just depressing because, like you said, like, they're legit and they're real. So,
Yeah, you kinda have to separate them because 'cause I'm like,
yeah, I don't do those
these
ones for
have a better
fun.
chance of being real, whereas, like, Sasquatch is more fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I think my favorite one is the Titanic one.
Oh, that's a good one, like, the people that were on the Titanic, like, in the
Yeah, how
suspicious death, yeah, that's fun.
yeah, so, in a nutshell, hopefully I don't botch it, but in a nutshell, uh, JP Morgan Chase, is that right? Yeah, was supposed to be on the Titanic along with other major bankers, and he got off last minute, and they stayed on, and he basically killed the competition.
Awfully convenient.
Love that one. I think
Yeah,
it's
it's
super
fun.
interesting. Yeah. Uh, so another thing that happened in the past, I think 2 weeks, I don't wanna say a week, but, so Zelensky, gave a speech, and he basically said that if Ukraine loses, that, it'll be the US's sons and daughters that have to go over there and die just like Ukrainians. Did you see that?
No, I didn't. Nice, though. I mean, sounds up his alley.
Yeah, well, it was a saying the quiet part out loud type of moment, and at first, I was infuriated at it because first off, uh, how about thanking us for all of the money that we've sent? You know, just be grateful first off, and then second of off, I don't think there's enough support that we're going to go do that. Um, it may not be our choice, but there's definitely not enough support, I don't think. So, like I said, first I was infuriated, but then secondly, uh, I look at it as an opportunity because, like I said, he said the quiet part out loud, and I think that was just the wrong thing to say. That'll get enough people fired up. Um, maybe people in the middle that didn't have too strong of an opinion on Ukraine one way or the other. So
Yeah.
now I'm looking at it as an opportunity, or not an opportunity, but a wake up call for those people.
Yeah, I think, the middle is usually where those things, can be like, where the needle can be moved for that kinda stuff. Because, I mean, it's impressive how they have brainwashed the left into being pro-war, like, all of a sudden. It blows my mind, because it's like, I'm old enough to remember when liberals didn't like war.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that blows my mind the most, but they really have, and again, it's this whole, like, weaponization of empathy, and it's this whole if they've made it to where they can tell anybody, like they can tell people on the left anything as long as they tie it into like empathy of some sort, they'll eat it up, which is so wild, you know what I mean? Because it's like, "Oh, no, this is the empathetic thing to do. We have to what about the people in Ukraine? Like, we have to help the people in Ukraine. If you don't wanna help them, then it's like you just don't care if they all die." And then, empathetic lefties are like, "Well, of course I care if they all die." So then they're like, "Go to war." It blows my mind.
What percentage of Ukraine supporters in the US do you think could point out Ukraine on a map?
Um, I
It's
can't
got
even
it's gotta
point
be
out
less than half.
I can't even point out most of the states. I sometimes forget, like, Arkansas is a thing. So probably not a lot.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It's I don't wanna use the phrase mass formation psychosis, but it basically is that same thing, and it just transferred from COVID to Ukraine.
Mhm. Well, so
And
those are the type of people that they don't really do their own thinking, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
they just do what they're told. They're like, "Okay, yeah, that's good."
which is scary because you can manipulate so many people, just by the media and just lying to them, which I mean, that's what they're doing. Um, but it's scary because you have to wonder, is the next thing going to be like Taiwan flags in everybody's bio, you know?
Maybe. Yeah, like, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, it's the cool thing, do the next cool thing that shows that you care about everybody, and you can, like, be on this, like, moral high ground and be like, "I care more than you. I'm a better person than you." It's really wild.
Yeah. I'm not down with all of the virtue signaling. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, and especially when, like, it's so laughably not virtuous, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's what really gets me, with lefties especially. I'm like, "Oh, man, if only you just thought about it, just, like, think about it, like, have a thought for a second, and you'll realize, like, oh, shit, what I'm advocating for actually is not making me a good person." But that's the thing that you have to try to do, right? Is, like, try to flip that, like, switch.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, they are diehards in advocating for this, but they don't know what danger that they're putting themselves into by giving this public support,
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure. They don't know a lot of things,
Yeah.
because again, it's just like it's a non-thinking thing, you know what I mean? And they're just, um, I don't know. I get it. I guess, like I get where they're coming from and stuff. And I love this like movement of people from the left, like Jimmy Dore and stuff, who like are having thoughts and going, oh wait, and coming back to like a more classical liberalism. Um, they're still not 100% on everything because a lot of them are still like, "But we need free healthcare," you know what I mean? But it's
Yeah.
like they're getting there, and so I don't know, I have hope for them too. There's obviously gonna be some crazies. I mean, the people who are, like, literally still masked up in their car right now, there's no saving them. They're so stuck in that reality, and it's fucked up too, though, you know what I mean? Like, it's really fucked up, like, the government
Yeah.
mess them up, man. They brainwash the shit out of them, and that sucks, and they lived a totally different reality than, like, people like us, you know what I mean? And so, I don't know, like, they legit lived through, like, a real life pandemic, you
That's
know?
like that meme where Leo is pointing at the screen, from that Ho what is that Hollywood movie? It's him and Brad Pitt. Anyway, it's a meme where he's, like, pointing at the screen. That's what I feel like whenever I see one in the wild that they have their mask on in the car. I just have to point and laugh.
Yeah, I'm like, "Fuck, man, you're fucked." Like, that sucks. Sucks. Sucks for them, but so there's no saving them. So I think it's like, yeah, don't even focus on it. But like there there are lefties waking up. And I think that's awesome. And when it comes to the right, like a huge amount of people on the right have come over more to like the libertarian sphere.
Yeah, do you think, so if the parties are switched as far as presidential power goes, do you think that you would see more leftists coming towards libertarian ideas? Or do you think
Um,
that's here to stay on the right? Does that make sense?
yeah, no, that's a good question. That's one of the issues that I have like with uh like your kind of like your Christian conservative types or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like um there still is this heavy drive to just basically the two sides are just arguing over like who gets control, you know what I mean? Who has the levers, who gets the beating
Yeah.
stick, and they're like, I want to beat people over this topic, and the other side's like, oh, that's outrageous, but I want to beat people over this topic, and I'm like, whoa, how about we just stop beating people? Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But it is going to be tempting, I think, if like that swing comes back into like the Christian conservative sphere, if that's what you mean, and having them like kind of want to retreat back into like, oh no, we're a little less,
Libertarianism.
yeah, we're a little less libertarian now and a little bit more authoritarian. But I think that once you really think about shit and once you really realize that like personal sovereignty is the just way to be, um and like anything else is morally fucked up, that there's no coming back from that. So, like, people who genuinely came to libertarian ideas, I think, are here to stay. I don't think you can really go back.
Yeah. So they've been kind of red pilled.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
There's no going back, just like the Matrix.
Maybe. Or I'm just like delusionally white pilled over here. I'm like, everything's gonna be great, and everything's like burning up around me.
Dude,
But
I hope you're correct.
yeah, I don't know. That's the
I have days where I'm white pilled, and then I have days where I'm very black pilled. Um, I have a wife and a son, so I think it is imperative for me to be more white pilled, for his future, that sort of thing. So I have to think of solutions and be solutionary rather than, just sit back and watch it all burn.
Well, and that's the best part about being like white pilled or optimistic or whatever is you're like allowing yourself that headspace to come up with solutions where you like shut that down as soon as you become like cynical, you know?
Mhm.
You as soon as you're like, well, it's all fucked, then your brain isn't coming up with solutions. If it's like, oh, that's a problem we can't solve, then you're not coming up with anything. So that's a solid point. Like is if you
Yeah,
stay
that's a good point.
yeah, optimistic, then you can come up with ideas and solutions and stuff like that, which a ton of that kind of stuff is happening. Like there's a ton of people who have gotten into like buying direct from farmers and just I mean like in every realm kind of getting into this like decentralization thing. I think crypto with all its faults, was actually a huge red pill for a lot of people too. You know what I mean? On decentralization and why it's important. And so there's been a ton of shit that's just been like, hey, decentralize. And it's woken a ton of people up. And I think it's awesome.
Yeah, for example, we built like above ground couple of planters and started planting vegetables and fruits. I think all the freezes are done here. I'm in Texas, by the way. Uh, and so we're going to see how that goes. And I would actually love to do to like get chickens and stuff. I don't think I can do that though because there's like an HOA here.
Mm.
But if I could, that would be the next thing that I would be doing.
Yeah, like
Um,
so many people are getting into that kind of stuff. Like,
mhm.
I don't know. I think things are going in a positive direction. And I think if we had like a national divorce, it would be more positive faster. Because then all of the kind of crazy lefties can just it's like, "It's okay, you're good, like, stay you can stay in your lane, like, stay in your area and, like, do your thing how you're doing it, that's, totally fine," and everybody else would be, like, way more free to, like, continue, prospering in a more decentralized, positive way.
Yeah. So recently, have you kept up with like the January 6th stuff with Tucker Carlson and
So, I just
all that?
kinda got a little briefing of it today, but yeah, do you what specifically are you asking?
Well, just a little background, if you don't know and you're listening, the Republicans released 40,000 hours of cam footage to Tucker Carlson exclusively um, about January 6th. And I think the only thing that he's really put out, which was like either last night or the night before, um, was just that the shaman guy was basically led around by police the whole time. Uh, and, they never arrested him or never you know,
Yeah, they just
did
walked him
anything with them.
around,
Yeah, they let him around.
and he was, like, saying positive shit to the cops and stuff, like
Yeah, he, like, thanked them in a prayer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think that's going to do to people when they see, this footage and whatever else is to come? Because, like, to me, if you're surprised by this, you haven't been paying attention and you're not, like, on the same wavelength, I guess,
Well,
as
there
some of us.
yeah, you definitely so when you say, like, haven't been paying attention, another thing too that's big is, like, people are siloed on social media and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So, like, it's not just as simple as, like, "Oh, I only watch CNN now, and, like, that's where I get all my information." There's still that going on as well. But even on social media, you get into these, like, little bubbles where it's, like, everybody's saying the same stuff around you or whatever. So, yeah, like, the people that you're listening to have been saying this kind of shit or showing evidence and have been doing research and blah, blah, blah. But that kind of video getting to a progressive, I don't feel like it's very likely. And then they're definitely not if it does get to them, it's most likely gonna be in, like, some sort of, like, mocking sort of way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Um,
think the legacy media's, narrative or counter narrative, I'll say, is that, like Tucker Carlson and Fox is cherry picking, clips to show you.
yeah,
But
they're saying
but
that nobody should have the footage, which is nuts. Because like, if they really cared about, like, the truth or whatever, it would be, "Oh, it's just everybody should have it." You know what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah, but their argument is, like, "Nobody should have it, shut it down."
Yeah, and the hypocritical part about it is that CNN and everybody else, the J6 committee, they've been cherry picking this footage all along. So it's not any different if Fox does that same thing. They're just gonna show you something different. And then the other part is, uh, the more information and free information that you let out, the less likely there's gonna be conspiracy theories, right? So the
Mm.
lack of information is what creates conspiracy theories. Just like, with the Pelosi thing, uh, it wasn't it wasn't the actual footage that we saw that led to the conspiracy theories. It's the lack of what people saw
The
and
Nancy
what was
Pelosi's
withheld.
husband thing?
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
know, the video is really fucking weird too, but,
Yeah,
like,
it is weird, yeah.
yeah, no, again, though, I think, like, ultimately what it like you said, like, it leads to conspiracy theories, and ultimately what happens is it just wakes more people up. Like, I you know what I mean? Like, everybody's gonna have this kind of different, like, red pill moment, and so, I mean, still, I kinda think it's good.
Yeah.
I sound like a broken record right now, like, everything's great, but, like, I think this, like, ultimately is gonna wake up more lefties, because they really, like, hitch their wagon to these things, and they're, like, ride or die on them, and then they keep turning out to be false, and the same thing happened with, like, the whole, Russia thing, you know what I mean? Like, I know, lefties who that was their thing. Like, they were like, "I, like, was really
Are you talking
fucking."
about, Russia and Ukraine or, like, Russiagate?
No, Russiagate, yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
yeah.
I forgot I forgot about World War III,
Yeah.
for a second, just, slipped my
They
mind.
have their hands in everything.
Yeah, yeah, so true. But I know lefties were like that was their thing. They were like I was so hardcore on, like, the Russia thing. I was like that no, like, I argued with people over this. I, like, ruined friendships with people over this, and so this is another thing, like, they maxed out this January 6th thing to where, like, saying, like, it's is bad like, is the worst thing to happen since the Civil War, and, like, just these, like, insane takes where it's like you cannot get any more extreme with these takes,
Yeah.
and so when people believe it and they're like, "Okay, this is the worst thing to happen since the Civil War," and then it comes out that, "Oh, wait, shit, that was actually all a lie," that really, like, breaks people out of the not everybody, but it does break some people out, so I think that's kinda cool.
Yeah, that was the weakest insurrection I've ever seen.
It
I mean,
was.
none of them even showed up with guns. How are you supposed to insurrect anything?
I remember, I actually a lefty friend of mine, like called me when he was like, "Did you see what's happening on TV? They're storming the White House." And I was like, "Fuck yeah." And I like turned on the TV and it was not what I was expecting. And I was so bummed. And I was like, this is you call like fuck you. Like you
Yeah.
got me excited. I was like, Christmas. It didn't happen.
Y'all are literally following the ropes and the carpets that are set out to guide you.
Yeah, it wasn't nobody was storming anything. I was like, the people are taking the White House. What? This is nuts. Like I thought it was just gonna be like we're gonna have a new president. Like whoever just got to the front first was gonna be like, it's me now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was like, sweet, but no, it was. I turned on the TV and I was like, this is lame. Everybody's walking. There's
Yeah, and
nothing going
what do
on.
those people think that they're gonna do? Like, they can't really demand anything, and
Get a nice tour.
yeah, I guess so. Well, hey, I wanna switch gears a little bit. I wanna talk about your comedy.
Ah,
So you do the libertarian thing, but then you also do comedy, and most of them are in shorts, via TikTok or whatever. Um, so how did you get into that? What are your are you gonna do the same thing going forward? Are you trying to are you getting on stage anywhere? Um, that sort of thing.
yeah, I haven't been on stage in a long time. I kind of just being like a total loser and doing jokes alone by myself on TikTok. But so I've just always been super into comedy. And actually when you talk about like the culture war and stuff, I grew up on like really kind of offensive, like just super offensive dark comedy has always been what I was drawn to. And it used to be you could find that kind of stuff on like Comedy Central and shit. You know what I mean? It was like
Yeah,
Spike TV. Like it was very mainstream. And then this like politically correct wave kind of came through and it like just absolutely decimated comedy. And it was so depressing for me. And so now I'm like trying to like keep that spark alive, trying to bring back the really offensive shit. But it's insanely hard to write jokes that I know I can say every word on TikTok because
yeah.
like TikTok's like the worst platform. Like they've taken me down for I almost lost my account because I called myself retarded. So that was my bad. But like there'll be like a word that you're like, I don't know, like I said, midget or whatever, like things like that. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
TikTok's like, no, you cannot say that. And I'm like, I don't understand these rules. But so it's very hard to write jokes for TikTok, but I'm trying to do it and try to like just, kind of creep back that like offensive, fun comedy that for some reason you can only get away with in memes right now.
yeah.
I really want to see it kind of revive in like the stand up scene.
Yeah, the funny part is, you know, comedy took a big hit with all the political correctness. Um, but at the same time, kinda like the white pill, black pill, there's never been more of an opportunity to do comedy, because you have so much material.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's just, posting it online is the toughie, for
Yeah,
sure. And then, another thing too is, like, people have gotten really used to this, like, PC type comedy, you know what I mean? It's like, men are like this, women are like this, white people are like this, you know what I mean? And,
yeah,
so, it can be a little crazy, like, doing jokes that are, like, offensive and wild and something you wouldn't have seen since, like, I don't know, the early 2000s, in front of people because the reaction can, like, not always be great. Can
yeah, it
sometimes
nearly
be
has,
very
like, a
violent.
shock value to it.
Yeah, it kinda does now, which is funny because, like I said, it used to be, like, so much more prevalent, but, I mean, you can see it even in movies like that, you always say, like, "Oh, you wouldn't be able to make this movie today," or, like, "You wouldn't be able to make a huge amount of the episodes of The Office today." Like, it's just ridiculous.
It's my favorite show, by the way.
So good.
Yeah. So do you see yourself are you trying to, get back on stage or more on stage and do, like 10-minute sets or 30-minute sets, that sort of thing? Or are you gonna stick to, like, the short TikTok stuff?
Right now, I'm kind of just sticking to TikTok because of everything else I have going on. But I don't know, getting on stage is like a maybe. Maybe I'll get
Yeah,
back to that. Yeah, I'd have to see. Like I said, it when you have people showing up knowing what to expect, it's a lot easier. But when you're just like going to a random crowd and you're like, all right, like how many super offensive jokes can I get through here? You know what I mean? It's a little different.
Have you bombed on stage, and have you done really well on stage, and what was that like?
I had like so the worst I've done, I guess, I've been lucky to knock on wood, it's gonna happen eventually, but I haven't bombed. The worst I did, I guess, was like my first open mic, and I just had a couple of jokes that like didn't land. But I mean, overall, it went really well. So
Well, that's kinda to be expected on your first time.
yeah, it's to be expected,
It's
like
like a learning
trying
experience.
out any new material. And it's actually kind of interesting, because like, doing jokes alone I do, like, the whole stand-up set on some of my jokes, I call it, like, the Jokes Alone in My Room series, and so I have a mic and I'm just doing, like, stand-up, and it's funny because, like, when I first started doing it and I didn't have a following at all because I didn't wanna, like, just kind of cheat and, like, push it on my main page and just get a bunch of people over there. I really wanted to see if I could, like, build it on its own.
Yeah.
So I just started, like, doing these jokes alone in my room, and I absolutely got decimated on TikTok. So I've bombed on TikTok for sure. Like, it just people were, like, fucking destroyed me, until I built up a little bit of a following, and now people are, like, really cool about it, and they, like, love it. But, yeah, initially, holy shit, it was brutal. And people are creative with the shit that they say online. So it was pretty
Oh,
gnarly. I
man.
learned some
Just
things.
savages.
Yeah, about myself.
So what is your process for writing a joke?
So typically, I just like whatever kind of like a subject will come to mind or whatever, like we'll be talking about something like say the transgenderism or whatever, and I'll just like think of a little quip, and then I just write the joke around that. So it's kind of just like a daily conversations thing. And that's why it tends to lean political. Like the majority of my stuff is because like that's what I pay attention to and talk to people about and I'm passionate about. So that's yeah.
And does it vary, the amount of time it takes you to, like, write the joke and then, like, refine it, that sort of thing? Or
Um,
is it or
so
is
I
it
don't
all
really
kind of the
do
same?
much refining, to be honest with you. I like kind of brain vomit a joke and I'm like, all right, let's see how it goes. And then I just like throw it up there and see, how people respond to it. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's like a fucking dumpster fire. And you just got to be like, cool, that one did not land. Good to know.
Awesome. Well, Elizabeth, it's been fun. We're coming up on an hour. I really appreciate you coming on. Do you wanna plug anything?
Yeah, I guess I mean just follow me anywhere really. TikTok, the Elizabeth Duffy, Instagram, the Elizabeth Duffy. Only go there, FYI though, if you don't mind the spicy content, because my Instagram's a little spicy. And then my podcast is Tax This, and it's all like libertarian, money, motivation, kind of shit like that.
It's a good podcast. Everybody go subscribe to it.
Thanks.
Alright. Thanks, Elizabeth.